This episode of Shun of the South is made possible by Case Knives, a tradition in my family dating back to my granddaddy. Also by my buddy Ron Taylor at WNC Original Music Podcast, who curates the music for this show every single week, bringing you cool sounds that bless your heart. Do yourself a favor and visit WNC Original Music Podcast, music of the Carolinas and of the nation. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Say, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Say, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Well, you are listening to Shun of the South, and I'm your host tonight, Sean Dietrich. Coming to you live on Friday night, Good Friday before Easter. This episode is brought to you by Case Knives, a tradition in my family dating back to my granddaddy, who once sang this very song. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Say, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Ooh, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Also on the show tonight, we got the Presley Girls, two identical twins who play bluegrass music that will bless your heart. Got some poetry, Emily Dickinson, read by Gina Weatherford. Is Emily Dickinson still alive? Emily Dickinson? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Whoa, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Say, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Boy, that music here behind me tonight is Blue Mullet Bluegrass Band from Fairhope, Alabama. Joe Reagan on the fiddle, David Thayer on the dobro, Cheryl Gilbert and Mark Gilbert, and John Young playing that smoking mandolin. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, shine it till it's said and done. I'm gonna let it shine. Well, shine it till it's said and done. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Say, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. God, I don't know about you, but I love that song. It's a song that takes me back to Sunday school when we used to sing all them songs. We used to sing songs that made no sense too. Songs like Father Abraham and songs about shooting guns. Like, I may never march in the infantry or ride in the cavalry or shoot the artillery. That was my favorite part. We could do shoot the artillery, and we could turn that into a full body experience. Our teacher didn't like that. Our Sunday school teacher was always threatening us with her primary instrument, which was a pool cue. That's right, a billiards cue. My Sunday school teacher carried a billiards cue as her pointer for the blackboard. And if you got out of line, she'd turn it over and she'd use the fight end. It's kind of like it's kind of like an illegal weapon, really. Did your Sunday school teachers ever beat you? Well, mine did. She didn't beat me, of course, physically. She beat us by making us memorize sections of the Bible that we are doomed to never forget. And she beat us intellectually by scaring the ever-loving tar out of us, letting us know that any second, the Lord would come back and the whole world would be empty except for rebellious and evil children who either watch Charlie's Angels or Three's Company. Yes, we were terrified, most of us, because, we did watch Charlie's Angels and Three's Company, and we watched Love Boat and Fantasy Island. Those are 4 shows that will immediately land you in a fiery hell. On our show today, we have two lovely identical twins who play music that will really get you. It's music of the Appalachian Mountains, music of tradition. These two are so talented, the Presley sisters, standing by to chat with us here. And we also have with us Steve Hoover, who's going to read to us some important church announcements. Come on, Reverend.
A few community church announcements for you. Starting with the First Baptist Church of Neckville, who wants you to know that during this terrible time that we're all going through, don't let worry and depression kill you. Let the church help. And First Methodist Church announces that this Easter will be conducting baptisms via the internet. All you have to do is get a Dixie cup, fill it with water, and splash it on your own head. St. John's Episcopal Church is conducting services online. Members are encouraged to make a financial donation via the internet. Bishop Davis wants you to know that Jack Daniels and Scotch whiskey are okay to take during communion, since that's all y'all been drinking throughout this quarantine anyway. St. Mary's Catholic Church services will be conducted in Calhoun Park, where everyone is expected to keep a 40-foot distance from each other. The priest will not be there. He's on vacation. And neither will any other church officials. They're all on vacation too. So it will just be you and a few other congregational members. Members are expected to sit in a lawn chair for 30 to 45 minutes and fall asleep just like they do during the usual sermon. The Neckville Easter egg hunt this year will be canceled due to the virus, but children are encouraged to hide their dad's wallet in the backyard, because this will turn out to be pretty fun for all involved. And if they use their negotiation powers with Dad will end up giving them something even better than an Easter egg in exchange for his credit cards. First Presbyterian is meeting in their parking lot. Everyone is to remain in their cars and tune their stereos to 93.3 FM to hear the preacher's sermon. Anyone who is caught clapping during a congregational sing-along will be dragged from their car and shot. Have a happy and safe Easter, and remember to wash your hands. And Miss Indaloo Crosby wants the women's Bible study to read the entire book of Leviticus twice over this short break period. And in this time of absence, she wants any of her female Bible study members to remember, face powder may help you get a man, but it takes baking powder to keep him.
Oh, Lord. Brother Steve, everybody. Brother Steve, who actually happens to be a real live reverend and will be preaching this Sunday via Facebook, I believe. So we're going to call him the Prime Minister of Fun from now on. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Steve. This episode is brought to you by Visit North Alabama, or hashtag Visit North AL. Visit the 16 North Alabama counties that make the state what it is, and by Folklore Brewing and Meadery, quite literally the best brew in Alabama. Also, Midnight Shift Coffee, Pensacola Police Department's own brand of coffee. Every buck from a bag of Midnight Shift goes to fight childhood cancer. And by my buddy Chris at MadeSouth.com. They have curated Southern goods and put them in boxes from 8 different small businesses around the South: Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, and South Carolina, and more. $99 for a box plus shipping, and 100% of the money stays with the Southern small businesses. This is the Southern Small Business Care Package. Go visit MadeSouth.com and order yourself a gift box today. Well, you are listening to Sean of the South, and I'm your host, Sean Dietrich. And in our Redneck studio today, we have Corey and Katie Presley, also known as the Presley Girls. Now, you're identical twins. You're not fraternal because you both look exactly alike. Am I correct?
That's right, Sean. We are identical.
Of course you are, because that's what they call people who look exactly alike. This tune that I want to start with is Brasstown. Can you tell me about that? You wrote it, and it's your hometown. That's all I know about it. What else can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so Brasstown is a song that me and a guy named Peter Siegel from Brattleboro, Vermont wrote. So you're probably wondering how I come in contact with him being so far away. So there's a class at John C. Campbell Folk School that is located in Brasstown that we live really close to, and there's a dance music. It's called Dance Musicians Week, a dance music class that's taught every year, and we've been fortunate enough to take that probably 7 or 8 times, and one of the teachers, there's multiple teachers of the class, but one of the teachers is named Peter, and he did a lot of songwriting. Well, still does, and I knew that. And so you could sign up for private lessons. And so when I had a private lesson with him, I said, hey, can we work on songwriting? Could you just give me tips? Could you give me information? Because at that point I had already begun to write some songs. And then he said, well, hey, how about let's write one? And so over the course of the week, we kind of wrote this song about Brasstown, where we live. And I was somewhat, I hate to say this now, but it's the truth. I guess I was somewhat embarrassed about the tune and thought, oh, maybe it's a little bit hokey. So I kind of put it in the closet and didn't sing it probably for 4 or 5 years after that. And then kind of, brought it back out and started singing it. And now that's, one of our, I think, most known songs, and people love it. So
This is Brasstown from the Presley Girls.
Bustling every day. Down in the flatlands is not for me. Up in the mountains is where I'd rather be. In Brasstown, where I've lived all my days. Back in the mountains, raised on old-timey ways. Kindness of family, the wise and the old, strength and character, quiet and bold. If you want something done, you do it yourself, surrounded by love, its own source of wealth. In Brasstown, where I've lived all my days. Back in the mountains, raised on old-timey ways.
All right, in the studio with me today I have the Presley Girls, the Presley sisters, identical twins, who are both extraordinary talented, which I guess, who do you get the talent from, your mother or your father, or both?
Well, I would say it's a mix, but a lot of it comes from Mom's side and our grandpa, who's since passed, but a lot of it comes from there.
He was a stunning musician, I guess?
Yeah, he was. Him and his brother had a band called the Wilson Brothers that toured the Southeast, and they were a pretty big deal.
No kidding. So what kind of music did they play?
They played mostly gospel music, but it was kind of in that old-time bluegrassy type style, like the Louvin Brothers. It was definitely largely like that style.
Do you play any of his music?
Yeah, we do some, and his son, so would be my uncle, my mom's brother. He played a lot with them. Growing up, he was able to play with them, and we still play a lot of music with him, and we'll do some of it would be his father, of course, my grandpa's songs. We'll do some of those together. So it's
It really is a very special family, multi-generational thing, and I think so much of that is found in Appalachia and Appalachian families. You've kind of got whatever that thing is, whether it be gardening or music for us or whatever it is for someone else. It's those important things seem to be passed down, and we're lucky and grateful that we inherited it and we were born into this family, not another one.
Let me ask you this. When you hear recordings of y'all playing, do you ever hear your own voices and think to yourself, wow, we sound a lot like Pap?
Yeah, a little bit, especially Katie. I feel like she sounds somehow, maybe it's just because I hear, you can't hear, there's only so much you can hear your own self, but I think we do some, and especially the harmony type style that we sing is definitely like him and his brother because, they did the, sibling harmony is tighter than anyone else. So yeah.
All right, well, we're going to listen to He Is Real by Corey and Katie Presley. Well, you are listening to the Presley sisters, two identical twins who play music good enough to melt your eyeballs and blow your hair back. And they are joining us right now talking about some of the things that have gone into their exceptional songwriting. It's songwriting that is, well, it harkens back to another era, especially in the Appalachian tradition. This next tune we're going to hear is When It Ends in a Walk. This was the title tune of their last album. Tell me how you came by this song. Who wrote this song, Corey or Katie?
Corey, I wrote this song.
How'd you come by this one?
Well, Sean, I actually wrote this. I might not have wanted to tell you this several years ago when I wrote it, but now that I'm a little older, I don't care. I wrote this song about an actual, like, super literal experience. It was about a boy I liked at the time, and I remember he was kind of like a family friend. We were at family friend's house, and there was like a bonfire there, and so when it ends in a walk, I remember, as corny as it is, I think he walked me down the driveway, because Mom and Katie were already in the car, and so I kind of pulled that out of that experience. So quite literal, but also doesn't have to be like super literal, because when I hear the song now, even though that's what it's about, I don't think of it being super literal, but that is what I wrote it about.
Does he know that you have immortalized him in a song?
No.
So we don't want him to know, do we?
Probably not.
Okay. Fair enough. We're going to listen to When It Ends in a Walk.
Our days were numbered and they were few, but it felt like the start of something new. You had to leave and go back home, but it left me here wondering alone. Sometimes love happens fast and it's hard to make it last, and it's easy to laugh and it's easy to talk, but it's hard when it ends in a walk. Talking about life with you made me feel understood, and I would trade everything for another day if I could. It's funny how love can be even when it's gonna end. You still follow it through the dark and around the bend. Sometimes love happens fast and it's hard to make it last, and it's easy to laugh and it's easy to talk, but it's hard when it ends in a walk. As you walk me to the end of the road to say goodbye, all of our adventures flash before my eyes, but it was worth it every time, because the memories we made will forever be mine. Sometimes love happens fast and it's hard to make it last, and it's easy to laugh and it's easy to talk, but it's hard when it ends in a walk. It's hard when it ends in a walk.
Well, you are listening to Sean of the South, and I'm talking with Corey and Katie Presley. And Bricetown, North Carolina is their home in Appalachia, and these are two exceptional identical twins who not only play music that will bless your mind, blow your hair back, and melt your eyeballs. She also, I think it's Corey who crochets, and Katie who operates a heavy blowtorch and makes all sorts of wonderful jewelry creations. She's a silversmith, makes beads out of the earth. Do you find that it's hard carving out your own identity musically as twins, or do you find it's a strength?
I think it's a strength. I think growing up, we might have been more like, oh, can't they get it right? I'm Katie and that's Corey, and if Katie's not even in this class and only Corey's in it, well, it should only be, you should only be calling Corey by her name because Katie's not even here. Like, there should be no confusion. She's not on the roster. So I think it can go both ways, but I really feel that these days it's a strength, and I love that we're so much alike. I love that we're partners in crime and we know everything about each other, and we work good together. And it's a balance. I'm crazy and Corey's not crazy. So
Well, during this COVID-19, these uncertain times, look them up. The Presley Sisters. Thank y'all for joining us today.
Thank you.
thanks.
Right. It was in 1830, December 10th, at Amherst, Massachusetts, that a young woman was born. She was a witty and popular student at Amherst Academy in Mount Holyoke and was viewed as kind of somewhat unconventional in everything she did. And later on in her life, she would carry this unconventional attitude into poetry. She was unpolished compared to the poets of her time. She was almost ungrammatical, if that's even a word. In 1858, she began collecting many short poems that she wrote into a hand-sewn book. And in 1862, she wrote to an editor at the Atlantic Monthly, Thomas Wentworth Higginson, to evaluate her work. Well, old Thomas felt her work wasn't ready to publish, but he did become her mentor. In her lifetime, she only had one romance. She was a real recluse, never left her house. She wrote 1,775 poems, but in her lifetime, only 7 were published. Every single one of them was deceptively simple. Deceptively simple. You hear her work and you think, I could do that. But probably not. She wrote during the height of the worst period of American history, the Civil War. It was raging around her. It was like a big boiling storm, and yet she wrote poems of romance and lyrics of love. We're going to hear 2 poems here to celebrate Easter by Emily Dickinson, as recited by Gina Weatherford, my good friend and New Zealander, who does a lovely, lovely job reciting poetry.
Indian Summer by Emily Dickinson. These are the days when birds come back. A very few, a bird or two, to take a backward look. These are the days when skies put on the old, old sophistries of June, a blue and gold mistake. Oh, fraud that cannot cheat the bee, almost thy plausibility induces my belief. Till ranks of seeds their witness bear, and softly through the altered air hurries a timid leaf. O sacrament of summer days, O last communion in the haze, permit a child to join, thy sacred emblems to partake, thy consecrated bread to break, taste thine immortal wine.
After her death, her close sister, Vinnie, had been instructed to burn her letters, and in doing so, she came across a box of 1,700 of Emily's poems. Thankfully, she ignored any request to burn the manuscripts, and after a couple years, she handed them to a family friend, and eventually they were published. Her first edition of poems was published in 1893, and her poems soon received extraordinary praise from the world's leading magazines. The New York Times claiming Emily Dickinson was one of the immortal English-speaking poets, and this all took place after her death when she was 55 years old.
'Twas a long parting, but the time for interview had come. Before the judgment seat of God, the last and second time. These fleshless lovers met, a heaven in a gaze, a heaven of heavens, the privilege of one another's eyes. No lifetime set on them, apparelled as the new, unborn, except they had beheld, born everlasting now. Was bridal e'er like this, a paradise the host, and cherubim and seraphim, the most familiar guest.
My life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me, so huge, so hopeless to conceive. And these that twice befell, pardon is all we know of heaven and all we need of hell. Well, you are listening to Sean of the South, and I'm your host tonight on a Friday night, Sean Dietrich. And we are coming to you live via the podcast airwaves and radio waves all over this fine nation on Good Friday. Weirdest Good Friday ever. You know, that weirdest I've ever experienced because everybody's stuck inside for COVID-19. We're forced to remember our old church memories because I can tell you ain't nobody going to church on this Easter Sunday. That's weird, man. But it's a good thing we got them, I guess, because this is the, you know, in my life, there have only been 2 times that baseball has been canceled. The first time was the World Series in 1994. They canceled the World Series, and this was minutes after my father had died. Minutes after they told me my father had died, the commissioner of baseball got on television, and he said, "We have canceled the World Series this year because the baseball players had gone on strike." You know what I remember at that exact moment? This is the weird thing. I remember my aunt upstairs in the kitchen. I was downstairs in our little basement, and she was cooking gingerbread. Isn't that weird what you can recall? Gingerbread. It was wafting from the kitchen downstairs to where I was watching this little old Zenith console television set that was ugly and with a flickering screen. And the commissioner of baseball was saying baseball's canceled forever. It was the same day, minutes after I'd heard that my father was no longer for this world. And I smell the warmth of gingerbread. God, I love gingerbread. That's the weird thing about that memory. Gingerbread is one of my favorite things in the world. I love gingerbread cookies. Someone gave me gingerbread cookies right before this quarantine started. They're sitting on top of my refrigerator. And sometimes I go up there and I just get them and I smell them. I don't even eat them. I mean, I do eat them, obviously, because my waistline has been expanding ever since this quarantine started. But I also just like the smell. That's what I smelled when they canceled baseball in 1994. Well, they canceled baseball this year, right in spring training. Weird. You're never going to probably experience anything weirder than this if you're a baseball fan. They canceled it only one other time in history, and that was in 1894 when they canceled the World Series. But they never canceled the whole season. This is a first. Very weird times. But interesting things are happening all over the world, too. People are behaving in unique ways. They're sitting on their porches, and they ain't never done that before because they've always been busy, or they've been stuck to their phones, or they've been stuck to their open laptops. But now you see them out there on their porches with their family. You see children, brothers and sisters, riding bicycles. You see neighborhood kids riding bicycles together, keeping a 10-foot distance between them. And you see, something else I've been seeing is we have musicians, and they're all opening up their garages. This is something I just saw last week. And in the evenings, they're playing music from their own respective garages. One man will play guitar, one man will play, and they're making music together. Music from a distance. How cool. What an interesting thing. You smell barbecue grills going every 10 feet. Everybody's cooking something on their grill. You hear kids laughing. I saw a family playing hopscotch in the driveway. I mean, the whole family. Mama, daddy, brother, sister, little baby, sister, drawing chalk outlines on the driveway, playing hopscotch. My mother ain't never played hopscotch. I can't play hopscotch because you got to be flexible, and I have about the same flexibility as a municipal fire hydrant. Well, we live way out in the woods. This house that we live in at one time was just plopped right in the middle of nowhere. Just the center of the North Floridian longleaf forests, which spread on for thousands of miles. We're 1 mile from the Choctawhatchee Bay and 3 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. The Choctawhatchee Bay is 127 square miles of pure gray bliss. There are huge redfish swimming beneath the brackish waters, and speckled trout. You can see them lapping up against the sides of the rocks that have been put there long ago to prevent erosion. There's a place, a little honey hole, I call it, where I go fishing, and I have been fishing for a long time, for about, I think, 18 years now, because that's when my wife and I moved here. It's down by a little boat ramp access that's made of sand, so nobody uses it because nobody wants to get their trailer stuck in sand. And I would, when I was younger, when we first got married, I would hand build these pinfish traps out of chicken wire. And I'd go down there and I'd drop these chicken wire pinfish traps in at breakfast time, or right before breakfast, right near the rocks that had been put there to prevent erosion. And I would go to eat breakfast, and I'd go to work, and I'd come home right around sunset is when I get around home. And I would leave to go check my pinfish traps. I'd lift them up out the water, and you'd see, 25, 50 pinfish in each trap, which was just exciting. Pinfish will stab you with them little pins they got on the back of their fins. It'll stab you hard. I mean, just make you bleed. That's why they call them pinfish. But they're great bait fish, and I bait my hook with them. I fished with them. They're great memories here in the woods. But about 10 years ago, they started building these little cookie cutter neighborhoods all around us. And the woods started to disappear and disappear and disappear until we're kind of like this little stamped patch of woods embedded within little neighborhoods. I'm not a big fan of extraordinary commercial progress. It seems like Florida's only, especially this part of Florida where we're so close to the Gulf, the only industry we got is real estate. So they're just using up all the land to build, retirement homes. Hallelujah. Well, whatever. Even so, even though I'm not a big fan of this, they make some great neighborhoods to walk your dogs in. And I got 2 dogs. They're 9 pounds each. I got a bloodhound named Thelma Lou. She is enormous. She's about the size of a Budweiser Clydesdale with huge paws like Virginia hams and ears that hang all the way down to the pavement, and big old droopy eyes. And I also have an alleged Labrador. We don't know exactly what he is, but he's black and white, and he looks a little bit like a Labrador. He's got very intense eyes and a very, very intense personality to go with it. These guys got to walk, and my wife usually walks them, but I walk them too, once every 50 years. No, that's just a joke. She'll hear that and she'll agree. I was walking them a few nights, or last night actually, so the night before Good Friday. A beautiful, beautiful night. The sun was low. The sky was a mix of like a purple and orange, kind of a pinkish color. Sun sets behind one of these neighborhoods, so it's interesting to see that big orb of gold set behind this roof line. And I'm leaving the dirt road area that we live on and heading for that paved area where all them houses are. I'm walking along, and I'm noticing all these things happening around me. I'm seeing musicians in their garages playing their electric guitars loud enough to affect the weather, so they can be heard by other guitarists down the street who are playing the same song. And they're playing Mustang Sally. And there's a drummer. He's contributing, and he has, I don't want to be mean, but he's got the same musical prowess of Coleslaw. But God bless him, he's still trying. He's playing Mustang Sally, and everybody's outside. Kids are riding their bikes. Like I said, I smell steak in there. I hear a family laughing. It's a radio playing down at the end of the street, clashing with that sound that's coming from that makeshift band. And I leave the dirt road, and I'm heading onto the pavement. Now I'm on the main road, which leads to all the little neighborhoods that snake off the main road. And I see people walking. I see a couple of old people, because there's a retirement facility not far from me. They're walking along, and they're using ski poles to stab into the concrete to make their journey. I pass kids who are screaming at each other, and they're yelling like rhymes. Rhymes. I don't even know where these things come from, but they're just so happy. Something's growing beneath the surface of this terrible virus quarantine that we're all involved in. And I got to this little neighborhood with these cookie cutter houses. New houses have changed. They don't look anything like the old ones. They got all this vinyl siding and this asphalt gray roof. And I got to this one house, and the windows were open, and there was music drifting out into the neighborhood, and the door was open too, and had this little tiny, it's not even a front porch, but more like a front stoop about the size of an area rug, and there was wicker furniture on it, and there was a man sitting on the front porch, and out on the curb was a woman standing and just facing the house. She had a dog on a leash, and she was listening to the old piano music coming from the windows in the front door. And the old man on the porch had his legs crossed, and he had his hands folded across his chest, and he was leaned back, and he was smiling. And I saw another old man walking along. He had white hair and workout shorts on and scrawny little chicken legs. And he was getting his sweat on. And he stopped at the curb, and he faced that open window and just looked at it. And so did I. And my dogs even. They were entranced by this old piano music coming from that place. What is that song, I thought? What is that? I know that song. So familiar. I know. It's Up From the Grave He Arose, the classic Easter song of all Southern Baptists everywhere. Every congregation has their own Easter song. You might not know this. You might not even think about this. That's why I'm here to tell you about it, because I don't want you to miss this important factoid about your own denomination. You see, the Baptists, we got our own Easter songs, but so do the Methodists and everybody else. The Methodists, their Easter song is Christ the Lord has risen today. Anybody, any of y'all Methodists? Yeah, you signed that on Easter, didn't you? Christ the Lord has risen today. You know why? Yeah, because it was written by John Wesley. John Wesley, the founder, the historic founder of Cover Dish Socials. Also, I think he founded Methodism, I heard. But Cover Dish Socials, that was his major contribution to the world scene. You got the Pentecostals and the Church of God. These guys, they got their own song too. And their song is anything that you can clap to. The Pentecostals and the Church of God and the Holiness folks, they clap on 2 and 4 beats, 2 and 4 of every song. Every song has 4 beats to the measure if it's in 4, and they clap on beats 2 and 4. Unique, because all the other congregations and denominations clap on 1 and 3. This means that when I have visited the Pentecostal and Holiness church services, and everybody's clapping on 2 and 4, you really find out how stiff you are, because Lord God, I could not clap on beats 2 and 4 if someone held a rattlesnake to my head, which they will sometimes do. Oh, you got, who else you got? Church of Christ folks, what they do for their Easter song is they all stand up, they all hook arms, and they walk down the street to the Methodist church and they set fire to the piano. Because a Church of Christ person does not believe in the existence of instruments. And I'm about to discover also, with the letters I'm going to get after that Church of Christ folks don't believe in humor either. I predict that my inbox will be full. But we Baptists had a very special song every Easter Sunday. I mean, we sang all the other stuff, but we sang this one above all. And that's Low in the Grave He Lay, Jesus my Savior. This song comes in 2 parts. It's got an A section and a B section. Okay, that part I just sang very, very poorly, like a crippled bullfrog. Yeah, that's the A section. The A section is sung slow and low like a funeral dirge. Okay? Because Jesus is in the grave. He's wrapped up in that shroud in his tomb. Low in the grave he lay. And then you get to the B section. The B section, the hymnal note, must be sung bright and lively. Bright and lively. Good God. Those are 2 words you will never hear associated with Southern Baptist. But this is the song when we all get excited on the B section. Up from the grave he arose with the mighty triumph for his foes. He arose. That is our chance to shine. You can look up there and you can see Miss Betty behind the piano. 83-year-old Miss Betty, still playing that Mason Hammer piano. And this is her moment. And she is rocking. She is shifting back and forth on that great piano bench, and she is rocking like she's playing Toot Toot Tootsie Goodbye. Left and right bobbing that shoulder and getting into the rhythm. Up from the grave he arose. And we're all smiling at each other and looking at each other. Oh, man. It's a wonderful memory, and I was feeling that while I was standing on that curb watching that open door and listening to that music wafted out. And then that music ended, and another song came up. No memory so dear to my childhood as the little brown church in the vale. Oh man, I love this song. I have a memory. It's a memory of my mother, and she's holding me. I'm on her knee, and there is white flapping laundry on the line behind me, making that flag flapping sound in the wind, and the sky's crystal blue, and my mother has long hair, and she's wearing eyeglasses, and she's wearing a sundress, and that laundry is just waving almost in slow motion, and my mother's singing, "Come to the church in the wild." The song goes by many different names to different people. I didn't know this until just recently. Some people call it Church in the Wildwood. Other people call it Little Brown Church in the Dale. Not the Vale, but the Dale. And then, of course, Little Brown Church in the Vale. Don't know what the difference between Dale and Vale is. Don't really care. This song is my childhood. And I wonder sometimes if people who go to them modern, fancy, dancy, floosy, doosy, rancy, tancy churches, Six Flags Over Jesus churches with the coffee shop out front and the golf cart greeters, with the huge concerts and the fog machines and the strobe lights and the pastor in the skinny jeans with the headset microphone and a hairstyle that looks like his hair's been dipped in Thousand Island salad dressing and lit on fire with a butane blowtorch. I wonder if the children growing up in that tradition will ever look back on their own memories with the fondness that I look back on my own childhood church memories, that little tiny chapel with the wood floors and the wood ceilings and the crooked steeple that's been crooked since the 1940s, and the clapboards on the sides, and the dying church lawn that Brother Gary's out there always trying to fertilize and bring the grass back because it's getting ate up by the dollar weed. That little baptismal. Was that all part of our imagination, or did it happen? It seems so far away now. You grow up, you get older, the world changes and technology just explodes out of every surface of humanity, and it just seems like a different place. But you can close your eyes and you can still go back to that little brown church in the Vale. When that music ended, then she really got going, this old woman who lives in that house. And I heard it. It was coming through the windows, infecting the neighborhood. People were gathering. And you know what? You know what it reminded me of? It was almost like the warm smell of gingerbread.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross, where the dearest and best of a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to your rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. be true. Its shame and reproach gladly bear, till he calls me away to a home someday, where his glory forever I'll share. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to your rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown.
Well, thanks for listening to Sean of the South. I catch my breath here. I've been your host tonight, Sean Dietrich, and it has been a pleasure coming to you live on a Friday night in Northwest Florida. Good Friday. This episode was brought to you by Case and Ives, a tradition of my family dating back to my granddaddy, who once said the best cure for idle hands was to build something. So keep your hands sharp with a case knife. I want to say special thanks to Gina Weatherford, Stephen Hoover, Stephen Davis, and everybody else in the band, Blue Mullet in Fairhope, Alabama, who made this show possible. Also want to wish you a happy Easter, no matter what you're going through, no matter what's happening. Get outside, get some sunlight, call somebody up, tell them you love them. Happy Easter to you.